Oh my God. OMG, you guys. Welcome back to another episode of the Device Diaries. Today is episode 26. Can you believe it? Holy crap. And guess what? I mean, you're welcome, you guys. You are very welcome because I have the best guest ever today. And I did this and I cannot wait. I've been trying to get this girl to come on my podcast because I know how much value she can provide with you guys. And you have no idea. I mean, pen and paper, take notes because I'm about to blow your mind. Today is episode 26 of the Device Diaries that I titled Women of Influence. And if there's no other women of influence that I can interview today, it is the one and the only Claire Davis. Welcome to the show, Claire.
Oh my gosh, thank you for having me with an intro like that. I mean, I'm going to be glowing for a month. So that's so
Aww.
kind. You're too kind as always. And I've been really taking notes and watching what you've been putting out there. And I have to tell you, Gyda, I used to joke that, for all of us out here on LinkedIn, like the 26 or 7 of us who are marketing in the medical device and medical sales space, I'm so glad to see that number being blown out of the water, and particularly with incredible women in this field. Because as we know, I mean, it's a challenging field to begin with, but there are so many nuances and there are so many wonderful women voices who are popping in this culture right now. So I'm thrilled to be here. Thank you so much for having me.
Oh my gosh, Claire. I mean, I have so many questions, but the very first question I like to ask my guests is that, I mean, tell us who Claire freaking Davis is.
I'm still figuring that out. So I'm Claire Davis. For anybody who is listening today who hasn't met me yet, it's nice to meet you. I am the founder and owner of Traction Resume. And what we do is we're an agency for medical salespeople, and we help them with resumes, LinkedIn, interview coaching, and also networking. So I really wish I could say that it all came out of this great vision from when I was a child and like I knew what I was going to do forever. But the truth is, I started as a recruiter, and going through that process, my very first job was go file all the resumes, like go really get to know our clients and get to know everything about them. By the way, this was analog time. So this wasn't like we had things, digitally. We didn't have a digital database. It was here, these resumes, put them in a binder, make a phone call on the phone. And so going through that, though, I ended up looking at an absurd number of medical sales resumes. Gyda, my sweet husband and I calculated it up a few years ago. It's more than 16,000. And at this point, it's probably closer to 16.5 or maybe 17. But the only reason that matters is that through my career, I ended up going into the industry myself. And it was wonderful. Like the people in this industry had me so on fire and so inspired by what they do. The job seemed really cool. Like I would hear my clients just amped about the new technology and the patients it was going to help and the providers they were going to be able to support. And what happened was I went into the field myself. And over the course of the next decade, I went through 5 layoffs in a row. So we can talk all about how right now the market is very challenging, but the truth is this industry is no stranger to the ups and the downs and the roller coaster of this market. And so in short, I was very, very fortunate because when you have the underpinnings of a recruiter and you just kind of start your career knowing how to market yourself and how to interview and how to find jobs and then all those things, it gave me a leg up to get through those challenging times. And now that's what I help other people do. And so it's really fulfilling. And it's also a little bit of like a comeback kid feeling because I get to pass on what I had to put into practice. And now I get to do it for other people.
I love a comeback kid feeling. Okay. All right, Claire, I want you to actually walk us through when you were young because you said comeback kid. So something might have happened when you were young to where you're like, I'm down. I got to freaking figure it out because I know this because I've been there. But walk us through that day when you decided I cannot just be a basic girl. I have to be somebody else. And as a female, we talk about women of influence. That's a big thing, right? That's really hard because as a female, sometimes we're put in the box. Here you are, female. You're in a box. But something happened in your life, and I know this. Something happened in your life to where you're like, I'm not gonna be in a box. And what was that day? Can you please walk us through that day?
Oh my gosh, this is a brilliant question. This is why I love your show. You ask great questions, Gyda. So I think that there were a couple of pivotal moments for me in that regard. One of them that actually happened more recently. And if anybody's following our content, you're probably sick of me saying the word networking. But as Gyda knows, I'm a huge fan of gathering people together to make big things happen. She so graciously jumped in on a group that we recently formed. And I'll tell you, there's something really incredibly kinetic about getting people together around a common cause to support each other. So suffice it to say, it didn't come out of nowhere. When I was in the field of medical sales, and for those listening, you probably feel like you network already. Like this is sort of just the way that you do business. And it is, right? That's how you get into hospitals, and it's how you learn about a new product, and it's how you get in front of a doctor that's hard to see. Now it's how you get scrubs when the scrub dispenser is down. Like you got to know the guy. So it was sort of hardwired into me as a young professional. So not necessarily a kid story yet, but what I can say is that really never left me. And when I was in my my last job before I retired out of industry, there's a wonderful diagnostics company still around. They do women's health, and when I decided to retire and have my kids, one day, about 30 days after my second was born, I started to feel like my leg hurt a little. And it felt like pressure. And I kind of watched my leg as it started to balloon and it started to grow and it started to get edematous, and it was big. It was like a tree trunk. And I'm not one to overreact. I'm pretty cool cucumber as far as personalities go. And even I was starting to get worried. So I called my doctors and they said, no, 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 you are too young for a DVT. And I thought, okay. Well, lucky for me, I used to sell in the imaging arena, and we did a lot of IR. And so I knew what a DVT was, but I knew that I was a really unusual candidate for this. I was young. I was in my early 30s. Like I didn't have, pre-existing conditions that I knew of. Like I just thought, yeah, they're probably right. So I gave it a couple days. And by the third morning, I started getting really scared because it was red and it was huge. And so I called my doctor. I couldn't get in. It was really early in the morning. And I ended up thinking, well, who else could I reach out to? And I actually ended up calling one of the physicians I used to work for because I always kept that relationship fresh. And this is what I love to tell my clients is you don't know when you'll be able to help somebody. But if you continue to stay fresh, opportunities will come about. They just naturally will. And he was a wonderful interventional radiologist. And I sent him a picture and I said, hey, I'm not trying to overreact here. This is what's going on. Just take a look for me and let me know what you think. And Gyda, he had me in the ER in 45 minutes and told me that if I hadn't come in, I would not be here today. I probably had a couple hours and before I lost a leg and likely my life. And I was clotted from groin to ankle. And it happens when, the pressure for me was too great on my artery. And anyway, the whole point of that is he saved my life. And it's the only reason that I was able to get in or that I even, took that action was because I kept my network fresh. So I think for me, the turning point was Claire, you came up as a recruiter, you knew this networking thing was important. You knew how to write a resume. You knew this networking thing was good for sales, but I didn't know that it would change my life. And I didn't know it would mean the difference between my kids having a mom or not, or my wife, my husband having a wife or not. And so that for me was really pivotal. And so when people hear me thumping that drum on networking, it's really not a self-serving, um, you just need something in your career kind of activity. It really is because in life, male or female, women or man, like, we need each other. And that's where I think that was really solidified me for life.
You know, I love that story, Claire, because I had a near death experience myself, and I think
Oh,
like a lot of people, not that I wish that upon people, please don't do it. You know, to
sure.
live your life. But the point here is this. I mean, you can hear from Claire's voice, I got goosebumps when you talk about your kids. I
Mm,
got goosebumps when you talk about your husband, you know, and that's so important. And the thing is, like when we talk about our whys, right?
mhm.
Why are we living our life? Why are we doing what we're doing? Yes, yes, of course we want to make money. Yes, that's a given. But at the end of the day, money is not everything.
Yeah.
And I always like to tell people, and Claire, you could probably agree to this, your self worth does not equate to your net worth. Like it doesn't. You know, you shouldn't equate your self worth to your net worth. Let's talk about that for a second, because I feel like I heard that from your voice, the passion in your voice when you talk about your kids and your husband. So walk us through like that day when the doctor's like, if you would have made it here, you would have been dead. Like, was there a flashback of like what's gonna happen to my kids and to my husband? Da da
Oh,
da. Yes, tell us.
yeah. Oh, yeah. And especially since your audience, I'm sure there are a lot of women here listening. For those of you who've ever had to pump to feed your children, it's a huge ball game, and I had to do that a lot for my first son. And so for my second one, I kind of like had this stash. I was like, pumping and putting it in the freezer and like trying to pack the freezer and like just have it ready. And I was 1 month out from having my second son. And so, you know, breastfeeding for me was really important. It's something I wanted to do. And so I was disappointed when I was going in. And I just remember thinking, I had such a hard time nursing my first son. I really didn't want it to be that way for the second. But here we are, and I'm going to the ER, and this is all happening very fast. And I'm seeing the fear in my husband's eyes, which my husband is a pretty tough cookie, and he's also a provider. And so seeing him be nervous meant this is serious. And what was amazing though was that I had prepared a full, I think it was like, I probably packed my freezer with milk for like enough bags. Anyway, when I went in, part of the disappointment was that I had to have some like a radiologic agent, right? And so I couldn't nurse. Okay. And so when I got out of the hospital and it was safe to do that again, my mom, who was watching my infant for the week, she had just used the very final bag. And it was
Oh.
just one of those moments where I thought, someone's taking care of me. Like, you know what I mean? Like, I just felt like, wow, like, not that this was meant to happen. I hope not. But, if it did, like, I don't know if it was an angel on my shoulder or what, but I was just so grateful that the pieces fell in the way that they did. And, I've seen a lot of hardship through my career and through the career of my clients. I mean, particularly now, again, we're no stranger to the ups and downs and the mergers and acquisitions and like the craziness of the market. If you're in medical device, everyone's probably nodding their head. But I will say that through those challenges, I think that's where we learn. And I think that's where we learn the important stuff. And so I'd imagine that now more than ever, when people, probably my clients who are talking to me about networking, I hope that the passion that I convey the importance of that really carries through. And what's beautiful is, gosh, we all know resumes are really, really important. Like there is a reason that you've got to capture your story. We redo tons of AI resumes because AI can't capture that, can't interview you, can't get the juice, right? But when you couple your efforts with networking and then you get used to networking as a practice, I just watch the careers of my clients explode. Like I've watched people go from doubting their self-worth in this industry, period, to leading companies at the C-suite. So
You know, yeah.
and like you, right? I mean, like it's probably I'm sure you can relate to this. It's probably the very same way that you've grown your career and obviously your business. That's how we met. It's in you.
It is. And you know what's crazy is like a lot of people, and you, oh my gosh, Claire, I'm like literally having goosebumps right now. Like you're literally like, I'm like, oh my gosh. Because you raised such a good point. A lot of times people don't understand social media. They think what people want to see is just like, look at me, I'm perfect, I'm great, I'm fantastic. But a lot of times, the more true you are to your story, that's why I like when I interview, I'm like, tell me about your story. I want to know the deepest, darkest secrets because it always starts there. And if there's somebody right now that's listening that's struggling, and Claire, you can probably agree to this, just show them the truth.
Yep.
Show them who you truly are because at the end of the day, we are all unique. And there's nobody like Claire. Claire is Claire. You can't be like, I want to be like Claire. Well, nobody can be like Claire. I want to be like Gyda.
Of
Well,
course.
nobody can be like Gyda, right? There's only one you. And that's what's fantastic about the world. Like we are one, like we are literally our own selves. We have our own quirkiness, we have our own style, we have our own ways of telling about our story. And that's why I was so excited to interview you because I know you have a very unique story. All
Mm,
right, so you talk about, I mean, you kind of talk, we kind of like brush on it. This is a perfect segue actually to my next question. So you talk about being really authentic, right? Authenticity is huge when it comes to putting yourself out there. So
mm,
can you give our listeners three advice
mm.
on how they can even start the process? Because a lot of times people view social media as like, oh, I'm just gonna show the beauty and I'm not willing to show the ugly. So
Yeah.
what is your advice for somebody who's like, okay, I'm ready to put myself out there? Like
Mm.
three things that you can give them right now just to kind of get them warmed up on the idea of authenticity in social media.
So, and just so I understand the question right, so it's, if they want to build a personal brand online, okay. So I've seen the good, bad, and the ugly, as we all have. And the reason that I start there is I find that when people are really, really inspired, especially when guided, like they see your show, they see the incredible voice that you have, and they think, oh gosh, I want to do that too. What I find is some people mistake honesty and vulnerability with um, the marketing that's being done on social media. And marketing, in no way do I want to give marketing a bad name. Marketing and sales are the two most valuable skills you can ever develop, right? But what I can say is that I see people jump in without a plan, and I've seen it tank careers. I've seen companies say, hey, you're going too far. This is way outside of our guardrails. You need to move on. I've seen people who have got a little bit drunk on the, you know, like a fame feeling on
Mhm.
social media and just torpedo their career. And so what I would first do is I would caution everyone to first consider who you are, yes, what kind of things you may want to bring to the world and what kind of things feel authentic to you, right? So like you're saying, everybody's very unique. And what's neat about that is I've interviewed thousands of people at this point, and no one does things the same. Every VP that I've talked to leads in a different way, has a different vision, has a different system. Every regional manager jazzes their people up, gets them to show up on camera at a Zoom meeting differently. Like everyone's got their own way. No one is the same, which is why we do this thing called System for Success, but we could talk about that later. But what I would also consider as equally important is who are you trying to be heard by online? Because yes, can I air all my dirty laundry online? Sure. Can I be incredibly vulnerable with my audience? Absolutely. Can I talk about how I've blown interviews or I've been, down in the dumps or I've been on record highs? Absolutely. But first, knowing that social media is a tool, you have to think about who you're trying to reach. Because if you put the message out there that's going to contradict what your goals are, it could hurt your goals. And then what is social media for? Other than you're kind of hurting your career. So my first thought would be, who are you trying to get to really absorb your content? If you're trying to put yourself out there to position yourself as someone who would want to be hireable, who's passionate about a medical device, maybe you love, women's health, or whatever it is, surgery or orthopedics, like whatever it is, then think about who's at the end of that rainbow who you want to be finding you. And if you talk about, your side business and you don't have time for work, and like you're always down and you're kind of hating on your employer, just expect that that's not going to resonate the way that you want it to. Fortunately, I have seen this before many times. And I know these are good people, and I know they have a good heart, and I know what they're trying to do. I get it. But you do have to consider your audience versus if your audience is, maybe you're an entrepreneur, right? And maybe your audience is, people that you want to inspire from your rags to riches story or your comeback kid moments, or whatever it is, but you are the employer at the end of the line. You are your own business, then you're not going to have somebody worried that, you might have your attention split should they hire you. So authenticity, yes, but definitely think about the target and who your audience is so that you don't unwittingly turn them off when you go to get a job.
I love that, Claire. And I love, because I talk about this a lot, and I feel like people need to hear it from a different voice. And
Mm-hmm.
you have a different angle that you kind of hit it, and you hit it. Oh my gosh, like I'm like goosebumps again. But it's great. I feel like people need to, I mean, I don't know if you agree with this. I feel like people need to hear it 20 billion times for it to resonate, right? And it has to come from different worlds. It has to come from different faces, from different voices. And this is why I love the synergy that we're having. And I did not sleep last night because I knew you were going to be my guest today, and I am so excited about having you on because I know for a fact that this episode is about to explode. All right, so let's go back to the subject of woman of influence. All right, so Claire, I love to ask this question. I feel like I've asked this question to a lot of women of influence. How do you manage being a woman of influence on the outside, meaning like it is a man's world? You have to obviously be manly, act like a dude, you have to be strong. But when you come home to your husband and your kids, you gotta be a mom.
Yeah.
Like, how do you do that?
Yeah, that's interesting. That's a really good question. And I think that there are some nuances that women bring to business that are different than what men probably, naturally bring to business. So I do feel that as a CEO, I can stand in my power as a woman and still be very effective in business, regardless of that. But I will say that there are definitely two worlds that you kind of live in, because to a point you do want to be able to come home and turn off the CEO mode. And for me, I like to focus on being soft when I'm home. I'm sure you felt this as well sometimes, especially when you're creating content and you're doing podcasts. Like, you quite literally have to bring all the energy from your side of the camera. Like, you just do. It's part of putting on a show that anybody's going to want to stick around for.
Right.
And not saying that I'm great at it, but I'll say that I've learned that I have to be the energy supply. There's no plug that I'm plugging into. But what that can mean too is it does feel, you almost feel kind of like amped. Like, and I'm getting better at making the distinction of like when I'm at work and when I'm, speaking truth to my team and like trying to, energize my clients. Like right before this, I was pep talking one of my clients for a final interview. You've got to bring this like big energy. There's testosterone there. There's just like, it's intensity in a good way. And so I'm getting better at then when I come home, turning the intensity off, or at least compartmentalizing it a little bit. Because if I came home and then tried to like Tony Robbins my husband and kids, they asked me if I could go like run 3 miles and then come back. But yeah, I think it's a balance. And something this year that's been really pivotal for me too is recognizing my strengths in business as we've grown. We've grown our team this year, which has been really wonderful, but also recognizing where my strengths don't necessarily lie, you know? And so who can I bring to the team that is going to be my go-to for, you know, systems and operations or design or interview prep? Like we're just um, becoming more aware, I think, of where my time and where my leadership needs to focus, and then helping the different arms of the business operate to their best by investing a little bit in the on ramping and being with them during the on ramp period, and then letting them stand in their own brilliance. Because I'm sure everybody here listening, especially if you're in this space, has felt at some point that you're, you know, I mean, you're out there performing, but someone is looking over your shoulder and they don't want you to do too much. And, you know, maybe don't step into that power right now. We're not so sure what we're going to do with you there. And I think that it's really powerful to be able to know yourself and then to lean in where you shine, and to delegate where others can maybe be your support there.
I love that answer. I love that. Oh my gosh, that's like blow my mind. Because I always like to say, like, I mean, I work for corporate America, and I always the advice I give to people is this: you gotta learn how to play the game.
Yes.
And you said it. You just said it. You said it like, okay, you gotta know where to shine, when to shut up, when to talk, when to not talk. I mean, I can tell you, Claire, how many times my managers will mute me because I'm like, okay, gotta just chill, because we want you to keep your job. We need you, because we're just like, because I'm a very passionate person. Okay. So I never put myself in situations, or never even like work for a company to where I don't believe in a device. Right.
Mm-hmm.
Problem is, Gyda wasn't born corporate America voice. I don't even know how to talk. I'm learning how to talk corporate now, to where you say you have to say it this way, not this way. So that's why I started the Device Diaries. And
Mm-hmm.
the reason why the Device Diaries is born, because I want people to understand the real grind behind the scenes of how it is to navigate. Okay. The world of Device Diaries, we're talking about not just implant sales, pharma. So I interviewed a bunch of people from different industries, and it's different faces, the same lingo, the same thing. We talk about the same thing. So you said something very specific as far as navigating, right? We talk about navigating, okay? And I want to focus on women, because this is titled Women of Influence. As a female, and you know this, for someone that's starting as a female, it could be so intimidating,
Yep.
right? Scary. So what would you give them if you can give a brand new female rep an advice? Give them like a couple things. What would that be?
Make friends with everybody and find a mentor.
Boom.
That's where I'd start. I was really, really, really fortunate to have great mentorship in my life. The first mentor, and in fact, I laugh because when I was interviewed by Stripes, that wonderful organization, okay, when they interviewed me, I put together a presentation, and I actually didn't realize it's still going to live on, but it's out there. I'm glad it is. But I put a picture of my very first mentor, which was my mother, and she was the owner of the recruiting agency where I worked for. So we had a family business, and she was the first person who really showed me that women can own a company and they can run a very successful company. They can call the shots, they can lead others, they can do great things. So I was more fortunate than, and I think I realize that now more than when I was younger, because that was modeled for me, which was really powerful. And then when I went into business, I had an incredible mentor named Antonia. Now she's doing great, big, amazing things with Sarah Blakely. And, you know, what she taught me was to take care of my voice, and that it was important to guard that. In fact, when I was working with her, we worked for a company called Pulse Music. And at one point I lost my voice for like 2 weeks, and she helped me get it back. And it was interesting. There was a lot of like some energy work that we did. There was some yoga that we did, and by God, like she actually helped me get my voice back from having sort of this long-term laryngitis that I think was stressful.
Mhm.
Sorry, we're talking about medical conditions today, but it was
Right.
it was really empowering because she was one of the first people who I saw just walk into a room, and man, she just commanded it. Like just
Mhm.
incredible relationship builder. She walked in, and it's almost like everybody kind of magnetized to her. She's just really wonderful with people. Um, and then another mentor I had when I went into my first role in medical sales, and this was an oncology diagnostic role, was this woman named Jen. And she was down in LA, and she taught me to make friends with everybody at the
Yeah.
hospital.
Yeah.
And it was great because I think in this industry, there is a lot of siloing still happening, maybe a little less than before, but it's truly why I'm so grateful for shows like yours, because it's it's time that we really started cross company conversations and supporting each other as professionals, not just whatever name tag we have on, because it is uniquely difficult in ways for women in this business at times. And so what I loved about working with Jen was that she was the first person who knew the names of every single person in that hospital, including all the competition, all of them. So she walked in, and I remember it was like the second day we were working in Cedars. And we walked in, and here we are with our product, and we're in the pathology lab getting our kit ready. And then there's another product that's a direct competitor, also in the in the pathology suite here. And I'm looking at her, and here comes the rep. And she goes, "Oh, hey, how are you? How was the soccer game? Isn't your son's birthday like this week?" And I just thought, well, wait a minute, aren't we competitors? Don't we like hate each other? Like, wait, hold on a minute. Like, why aren't we fighting in the parking lot? And she was like, no, no, no. I've known him forever. We help each other, and it was really a wonderful thing to learn as a young professional, a young woman in this business, because it showed me that there is so much more to us than just the
Mhm.
name tag we have at the end of the day. And actually, there's a lot of collaboration that we can do with our competition when we recognize that we are all just trying to get home at the end of the day with our paycheck and see our families. Like the end.
You-
Um, it was a far cry from another person I had worked with at one point who we'd go into offices, and I would see our competition like tip our brochures into the
Yeah.
garbage. Okay? So
Yeah.
very different, but man, it was illuminating for me. It fundamentally changed the way that I started leading my business as a medical sales professional and definitely as a business owner. So that's my long-winded advice. So if you're a woman in this business and you're just getting started, make friends with everybody and find your mentors.
Boom. I hope you guys are writing this down. Please write that down because that's like the best advice anybody can give you. Honestly, like if I were to give one advice, two advices to, it's the same thing
Uh,
because it's hard. It's like it's such a. I mean, I remember crying for a year when I first got into the industry. I was in ortho, so I was in spine, which is like the hardest, right? And you know this. I was on call. I was like, I didn't know what to expect.
yeah.
But all I know is that I have to have like that big backbone of like, okay, Gyda, this is you broke then, don't screw it up. Like just try your hardest to be I mean, I don't like to call it pretend, but it is pretend. You got to pretend how to be strong, right?
Mhm.
And you have to learn this. You have to learn not to take home all. Surgeons are going to be stressed out. People are going to be stressed out. You're in a very stressful situation. People are going to say things that they don't mean. It has nothing to do with you. And as a female, as emotional creatures, it's so easy for us to like, oh, I feel really bad because a surgeon yell at me or somebody yell at me or somebody like roll their eyes at me has nothing to do with you. And if I can give females like as an emotional creature myself, I remember crying myself to sleep the first year I was in spine, but I knew that this was my field. All right, Claire. So let's talk about this for a second because I feel like there's so many people right now, not just female, general med device, that are so unhappy with their jobs.
Mhm.
Okay, and I always like to say this: if med device is not for you, and if it's really costing you a lot of anxiety and depression, you got to find a different industry. Let's
Mhm.
talk about that. What do you say about that?
Yeah, I think that it's a real indicator of maybe it's not the industry for you, or maybe it's not the scenario or circumstance or company. Like there's so many different factors. Um, when we are in an industry that is fundamentally driven by how you're ranked, how you're performing at quota, not every job title or company operates that way, but certainly when you're in medical sales, that is number one priority. I remember being on my phone like at midnight praying to all of the pathology gods that we would get those tests in the door and run and reported on before the end of Q2 or
Yeah.
Q4 or whatever. And so I think that if you're finding that you're very unhappy with your job, the first thing you should probably do is ask yourself why. What is it about my job or my circumstance that is making me unhappy? Maybe it's something that is as simple as I don't feel like I have a grasp of the clinical data. I know for me, that was a huge, huge learning curve. Like, I really loved being out there, like shaking hands and like, dazzling the office and making friends and getting in and all that stuff. And when it came to the clinical data, I needed a lot of help. So in my case, I ended up being blessed with some incredible people on my team who actually transitioned into a sales role from working in the lab. In fact, one dear friend of mine still, he just texted me this week. His name's Angel. He was instrumental with me understanding how our technology would see, even today I'm struggling with it, but guys, it's been 10 years. He really broke down what was happening at a cellular level,
Mm.
where I didn't have experience at the cellular level of anything really. And so because for me that was a big sticking point, I went and found people who could teach me those things. And lo and behold, he'd never been in a sales role. So when we were talking about, well, what's a good way to make warm inroads with an office, I could teach him about how I would continually go back and be that constant presence so that eventually I would just become part of their picture in that office, right? And
Mm.
work my way in. So we really were able to skill share in a lot of ways. But say it's something like, I worked with a client not too long ago who was very, very unhappy because the role that she took, and people might be nodding their head now, isn't the role that she ended up doing. So, for example, she was working in reimbursement, but then because the company was leaning out, she ended up having to lead the sales team that she was otherwise just kind of collaborating with when they needed her. This was not the role that she wanted. She didn't want to lead people. It wasn't her passion. She wanted to really build those relationships in the office to help patients get more access to the drugs that they needed.
Mm.
So in her case, it was time to look. And she did look internally and talk to the leadership in the company to see if there were other avenues, to see if there were other roles, or to see if she could refine her current role. And it wasn't possible. So in that case, and if this is the case for people listening who they feel like, I've gone to my leadership and there isn't a way that I can step into a role or morph my role into something that's more amenable to what I want, then it's probably time to brush up your resume. And that's okay. I think that a lot of times in this business, we put up with a lot. I know back in the day, being in the field, I put it with a lot of shenanigans from clients who, from them saying kind of untoward things in the OR to there was a marriage proposal one day on a routine call to an office, like just shenanigans. And really, I knew that this was probably not going to work out for me long term. It wasn't what I wanted. And there's no shame in just getting yourself ready to make a move. And that's really where the networking piece comes in again too. So if you feel like I hate this place, like if you're having terrible dreams about your boss and you're like every time you see him light up on your phone. Get your resume together, polish up your LinkedIn just so it looks professional. Okay. Don't put your green circle on or anything like that. But start talking to people that you know so that you can get your network like reignited. Because chances are, if you're already in this industry, you already know the person who's going to introduce you to your next step. So, that's really where you'll want to start to intentionally network. And the beauty of it is you're already doing it for work. So now it's just time to do it for your own career.
Oh my gosh, you guys. I love that answer. Okay, Claire.
Mm.
Okay, here's the thing. So you probably get bombarded with a bunch of emails, with a bunch of LinkedIn because I do, and I know. And let's just be honest. This is Device Diaries. We're honest here,
So we
right?
can be real here. We can be real.
We're gonna be real, girl. It's about to be real, you guys, because we're getting there, and I'm gonna bring out the goods for you guys. All right. So I cannot tell you, Claire. I don't know if you agree. I know you do. How many messages I get every freaking day. And I would ask them three questions. And number one is like, what industry do you want to break in? Do you
Mm,
know what you want? Like, I mean, have you even done your research? Which company? A lot of times when they say no, I block and delete.
mm,
And let's talk about that for a second. Why is it important for people before you even med device is med device for a reason, okay?
mm,
If you want to break in, you got to be very particular with what industry, what is the day to life? Do I travel? How much do I travel? How much do I get paid? Is this going to affect my family life? So let's talk about that because I feel like people say like, "Oh, I just want to break in because you guys make good money." But it has
mhm.
nothing to do with money. You got to understand the lifestyle, right? Let's
Yeah.
talk about that for a second, Claire.
No, you are singing my song, Gyda,
I
seriously. You
know.
know, and I think that's where people like you are incredibly successful here because you do things with the goal in mind. And that's what I think most people need to hear for their career as well. If you were successful at J&J for 25 years and you moved through the organization, very likely it's because you knew people in there, they knew the quality of professional that you were, and you got moved around or offered opportunities because you were known. Well, what happens a lot of times is even when we're new and even when we've been succeeding in this business for a very long time, if you're sitting there and thinking, well, yeah, I did make my last two moves because I knew someone, then it makes it difficult when you want to make that change, but it's not an inbound opportunity. You have to now go outbound. And so, what I encourage people to do is think about how they do outbound selling. So, if you are going to, let's paint this picture. If you're going to approach a new territory, right, you're not going to show up and ask your customers what they think you should sell them today. You're not going to say, like, hey,
Hey,
I would love for you to put some money in my pocket and just, I've got like a bunch of products and I don't know what you need, but like, here I am. That's not going to work. Like, everyone should be kind of cackling right now, right? What I'd say is think about what you're already naturally good at, which is if you're going to go open up a new territory, if you're going to go warm up a new office, you're going to do your research first. And the things like you mentioned that you're going to know are going to be things like salary, traveling, commitment, product, market, all that. It's the same with your career. If you want to make a move, a good move. Now let's make this distinction too. There's a distinction between making a fast move and a move that's just like, I took the first low hanging fruit thing that I saw, and now I'm calling Claire 6 months later because I shouldn't have taken this so fast and I kind of hate it. Or there's a move where it's a good fit. You've done your research, it's what you want. Okay. The difference is in the targeting. What I know is the industry average for many when they're trying to make a move and say they're at the managerial level is that people will tell them, oh, well, with your level of experience, it's going to be 4 to 6 months. And they're frustrated by that. And granted, do those long-term searches happen? Yes. As you go higher in the ranks, there are less roles. It can take longer. But what I also find about those circumstances and those situations or scenarios is that generally those are people who are taking that shot in the dark approach, like we talked about. So, hey, guide, I'm looking for a role. And you say, well, what kind? And they're like, I don't know, I do anything. Well, that doesn't give anyone anything to go on. And so, what you need to do instead is think about it like you would start creating your business in a new territory. This is just creating a career opportunity where you want it. And what I've seen is that people who are going about it this old traditional way, which is like, I don't know, I'll take what I find, I'll apply online. I hope somebody pops into my inbox. I hope that right recruiter has that right role for me just in time. It can take 6 months, or you can treat it like a sales opportunity, right? But you are the product. And when I've seen people go about it this way, they're landing roles at right fit companies where they want to be, that they're not then feeling like they have to jump right out of again in, 30 days, 60 days for ideal interviews to come about. We've seen this time and time again with our clients, is that, many times they are kind of geared up for this long-term process, a little bit of like a letdown for them, because they know they're amazing and they never had trouble getting a job before, but they just never had to go about it quite like this. And I feel for them. But the good news is, if they can put their sales hat on and run their their job search and their career moves like a sales funnel, that's when they'll start to see momentum and good fitting jobs.
Holy mic drop. That's like a mic drop moment, Claire. I mean, if I have a mic drop.
You would drop
Yeah.
it.
Yes, yes, you guys. Holy crap. And I remember telling this. So I've coached a bunch of people, but friends of mine have broken. And I told them this because they're like, oh, Gyda, this. Oh, okay, which company? And they would tell me the company. Okay, do you even know their mission? Oh, I haven't gone to their website. Well, I'm like, yeah, go to the website, understand the company, and challenge them. You are a product. Why do you want me? Why did you choose me? I always tell them this. Write questions about, like, probe them, challenge them, probe them as far as like, okay, out of all the delegates, why me?
Yeah.
And it's crazy because I asked this to my managers, and I think for me that's why I got the job pretty easy, because I'm like, hey, like, when you at the end of the interview, do you have any questions? Please always have questions. If you don't have questions, what the heck are you doing with your life?
Yeah.
What
Right.
the heck are you doing with your life?
Yeah.
Have questions, but the questions is not desperate questions. Okay, so think about it as dating 101. Nobody likes a desperate person. Pick me, choose me, why not me? No.
I'll
No,
have anatomy flashbacks.
right? No. You ask this. Hey, I have a question. What is it about me that interests you? Right? What is it about me that interests you? And then have them talk about it. And then from their answer, ask them more question. Oh, is because you're straight? They're gonna give you generalized stuff because a lot of times they're not used to it. Oh, it's my strengths. What exactly did you see that supposedly is my strength?
Mhm.
And then they're like, holy shoot, like nobody's ever asked me this.
Yeah.
Da-da-da. I said, okay, out of that answer, what, like, guys, I'm serious about this. And Clara knows this because she's smiling. She knows because she's done this before. All right, Claire. So can you believe it? We're almost like 10 minutes,
It
like
flew.
almost an hour, right? It's so crazy.
Yeah.
Okay. Now I want you to talk about you and your business and
Mm.
what you do and how can they find you and what can they get out of you.
Oh, for sure. Well, first, thanks so much for having me. It's so nice to finally get on your show. You've been so incredibly gracious. I know we had like 2 other shows we were trying to record, and then we finally got to this one. So thank you for your incredible patience and flexibility, Gyda. I love your show and what you're doing for people here. I would say, if you're feeling stuck today, you're not alone. And I would try to remind yourself of that. because it's a tough market out there. But if you're a medical device, you are no stranger to a tough market and tough access and tough docs and tough scenarios and tough everything. So that leaves me to say, don't go it alone, and find yourself those friends, those mentors, those, influencers like Gyda, who here is giving you the behind the scenes and working to put out content that refreshes you in those tough moments. I think that that's really where we find what we're made of. And when you're feeling low, just know that you're not the only one. And the best way to move forward is not to do it in a silo. For me, I mean, Traction Resume, we love helping people get out of the resume rut. And we recently have been redoing a lot of AI resumes because they tend to all say the same thing based on whatever job that they were based off of. And so, what I would say there is please give yourselves a little more credit. You have a story worth telling. And the tricky part about it is that typically when we're good at something or we've been successful in any way, sometimes we're so close to our own story that we don't see it as remarkable or strategic. We just see it as common sense. And why would anybody be really interested in that? That's probably how everybody thinks about business, but it couldn't be farther from the truth. So if you are struggling to get the interviews that you want, the good news is it's probably your resume, and it's probably because you need to rewire your story and the way that you present yourself to the roles that you really, really want. So if anybody's interested, please feel free to connect with me on LinkedIn. I mean, I pretty much live here, as Gyda knows. I'm here.
Yeah.
And we've got lots of free resources as well over at tractionresume.com, templates and things like that, so that you can start getting moving in the right direction, especially in a market that's tough as nails. But again, you're no stranger to that. So yeah, come meet me, come find me, and I'm looking forward to getting to know everybody who's listening in today.
Oh, I love that, Claire. And a couple questions that I like to ask before I end my show is like, are you reading a specific book right now that you can share our audience and why?
Yes, I am. Okay, so I have two books. In fact, oh gosh.
Oh, she has it. Of course she has it. She's right there.
You would laugh at my bookshelf right now. My one of my very favorite books, and I would recommend it for anybody here who's looking to infuse their sales acumen beyond what they're learning from their company. And it's actually someone here who's incredibly active on LinkedIn. He's a dear friend of mine. His name is Marcus Chan. He's probably going to get a bunch of DMs today.
Yeah.
Marcus has a way of putting your sales strategy into a system. And as you know, if you follow me at all, I love systems. And what's really great is it's very relatable to any industry, and definitely in medical sales. So if you're feeling stuck, you're feeling like you're not converting, I would go check out his book. It's called 6-Figure Sales Secrets. Hopefully someone can put his profile in the chat and say, hey, Marcus, Claire was bragging on you again. But I recommend this to all my clients, because when they're feeling like they need to really revive their sales strategy and pump it up again and make it repeatable, he's the guy. The second book I'm reading right now is called Good Energy, which is really interesting. Gyda, have you read this before?
I have never. I'm going to now after.
Okay.
Amazon, right? Can I find one?
Exactly. I'm going to read it and listen to it because I'm a big fan of audio and visual learning together to really solidify it. But it's interesting. It's just kind of a refresh on how food works in the body and real health and new data and all kinds of cool stuff. So Good Energy is what I'm reading right now. I'm about a quarter of the way through, so I'll have to update you on how it turns out.
Yes, please. Yes, please. All right. Question number 2. This is really important. Okay.
Yeah.
Think about this. If there is one word that you live by, a motto in life that you can share everybody else, what is it, and why did you choose that specific motto in life?
Can it be 2 words?
Sure. 2 words.
My motto in life is keep going. And it's because it actually started when I had a dear friend in high school who was in a terrible accident. And he and his buddies were just driving around and they lost control of the car. And my best friend became a paraplegic. and he is a wonderful man. And he went from one of the most like athletic people to, stuck in his wheelchair, and he embraced it. He came back as very much as his body could, and he's a wonderful person to this day. But it taught me that even when people are struck with the unimaginable, that you've got to find a way to keep going. And I think that hopefully this resonates with folks like thinking about their career, especially if they're feeling frustrated. But I find that keep going is something that I have always had as the screensaver on my computer. And so even in college, I remember going through some really tough exams. I'd spy that rolling across the screen and think, okay, just keep going, just keep putting one foot in front of the other. The more reps that I get in, the better and more and easier things will come. That's played out through my life, and I still find that keep going is something that keeps me going to this day, because I feel like real change and real learning happens when we meet the lessons head on. And we can only do that if we keep putting one foot in front of the other.
A freaking man. You guys, you're welcome. You are welcome, everyone. This is probably one of my favorite episodes. Oh my gosh, you guys, thank you so much. Today's episode 26. I cannot believe it. Episode 26 of the Device Diaries. My baby. I love the people that I've learned so much from people, from their experiences. You're hearing from one of the most top voices all over the world in women in sales, you guys. You're very welcome. I really hope that you take notes. Today's episode I titled Women of Influence. I really love you guys. Thank you for supporting me. I see all the loves, all the messages. I know Gyda's slow in responding because I'm really busy, but I love you. Women, you guys are awesome. Keep it up. Today's episode 26 of the Device Diaries. Remember, ladies, gents, be strong, be bold, and be you. Okay? Be you. You are, there's only one you in the world. You are unique, you're loved, and you're worthy of everything. And anything is possible as long as you put your mind into it first. I love you guys. Don't forget to subscribe. Don't forget to hit like and follow. And I'm going to share a Claire and my journey together all over my social media platforms. I cannot wait for you guys to listen to this episode because this is probably one of the best episodes I've ever recorded. Claire, thank you so much for joining me. I appreciate you very much. And yeah, we'll talk soon, girl.
Sounds good. Thanks for having me, Gyda. You're amazing.
Thank you.